What's up guys, it's Brian here, and today I'm bringing you guys another behind the scenes video of Kenobi, a Lego Star Wars story. So obviously I mentioned this in the last behind the scenes video, but many of you guys requested this also, that I do a tutorial specifically on the special effects. Now this isn't something that you can just download on an app for free, however. This is something that I used in Adobe Premiere Elements and Adobe Photoshop Elements. So the first tutorial I want to show you how I did is the Maul versus Obi-Wan scene, and after I do the tutorial just showing you how I did the, it's more of a showcase of how I did the thing, it's not really a tutorial, but after I show you how I did each frame individually, I will show you a side-by-side comparison of how it all looks. So here I have this frame of old Ben right here. So, and I also have opened over here the project in Photoshop of all the various layers of to how I got this scene to look exactly the way it did. So let's bring this new scene of Ben Kenobi into the Photoshop elements over here. So it starts off with the blue background, and it's pretty bright, and obviously the lightsaber is not lit up. So I have a couple different layers here. I'm going to delete this Darth Maul layer that I have in here real quick. So we're going to delete that layer 62, yes. So I have a whole bunch of different layers in here. I'm going to show you what each of these are individually. Each of these layers down here are the Starry Night layers, and I did have to make a couple different ones so that when the shot changes, like from Obi-Wan to Darth Maul, you don't just see the same stars in the background, because that would look repetitive. And I had to do the same thing with the sand, actually. So I have these, let's hide some of these for right now. These transparent sand, actually what I want to hide these layers. These transparent sand layers down here, as you can see. This is actually from the trailer for The Force Awakens. This is the Jakku sand layer that I cropped out the background of that I've been using for here. So we're actually gonna do we're gonna use the Obi-Wan side layer. So there you can see the oh my gosh, Photoshop elements can be kind of a pain in the butt sometimes, or I'm just very bad at one of those. So I have the sand layer back here. Behind the sand layer, I added in a Starry Night background. So if you wanted to hide that layer, that's what the Starry Night looks like. And then I put the sand over it. Now this was something really important over here. I had to add a hue and saturation layer because obviously I wanted to make this all not very colorful because this looks very bright and during the day. So I added this layer down here, this hue and saturation layer, to make it darker. So I had to lower the saturation down. I used -82 for this to make it look gray, but I still wasn't completely done yet. Then I added in Obi-Wan over here. I gotta actually reveal this layer. I used the Magic Eraser tool, which is a tool that erases all of one color in a specific frame. So I erased the background of Obi-Wan. Now I do have to change this up a little bit because when you mess with the tolerance of the Magic Eraser, it deletes more and more. That one actually looks pretty good. That was 65. I'm going to save that. If you crank it all the way up, it'll start deleting more and more and more, which that's not something you want to do. Now I'm sure that this is a, what do you call it? This is a tool that is used in probably most paint applications. I'm not entirely sure about that though. So this is what I used. I used the Magic Eraser, got rid of all the blue. You can see even still the backpack there in the corner was preserved. And even the little bit of the lightsaber got cut out too. But you know what? That's okay. But we're still not done yet, especially with all this. Because look, this still looks very, very bright. So I added a brightness layer up top to lower the brightness of the entire thing just a little bit, so that it looks like it's nighttime. Now, I did this for Darth Maul, but I did not do this for the Obi-Wan shots. I have this dodge tool up here. Is something that just like makes highlights over these specific sections. So look at this. You could highlight, nope, just kidding. Do it on this layer. Highlight Obi-Wan's face a little bit, just to give him a little bit extra brightness right there. So that you can see you can just see his face a little bit. Now, the lightsaber is the last step of this process for me. So I create a new layer up top because I don't want it to be affected by the brightness. And I use just two different brush tools. I have a blue brush over here and a, what do you call it? A white brush. I don't like that color very much, so let's get a little bit of a brighter color going on here. And I want to crank the brush up a little bit. Let's see if that's going to work. That's going to be just fine. And the opacity is at 100%, which is exactly what we want. So let's actually crank this up just a little more. So I want to add the blue layer first, so I just add a nice line. What I did with that was I shift clicked instead of doing that and having it be all funky. I have it like that, and so I draw one dot there, make a connecting line over there. And I still don't really like this. This takes me a while to get just right sometimes, but then I would just copy this one layer onto the other ones. So that's okay right there. Switch it over to white. Drop this by like half and draw that in there like so. And that looks decent. I would play around with this a little bit until I got it to look exactly how I wanted it. Actually, I should make this a little thicker. Let's put it in the 90s and see how that comes out. A little better. But you guys are kind of seeing what I'm doing here. There are more complicated methods of doing lightsabers. This was the most simple one. This still looks a little jagged. But that was basically how I did this. And one last thing. I would bring it back down to the Obi-Wan layer. And I want to add that blue glow that's on Obi-Wan's face. So I would bring it back to the blue brush. And I would crank the size way up. And the opacity way down. So that I could then draw on Obi-Wan that little teeny tiny blue glow. So he's glowing blue just a little bit on his face. So the opacity is basically like the transparentness of the brush. You can see how that happens like so. And then I would save that layer, I would export it, and I would do it all again for the next one. Except I already had the background, I already had the brightness layer, I already had the lightsaber, I just had to move my lightsaber around a little bit. And then I would do that for every single individual frame. And then I would save these lightsaber layers up here so that I could use them later on. Save these layers down here so I can use them later on. It was a very long process, but it wasn't difficult necessarily. It was difficult to how to figure it out, but then actually doing it wasn't that bad. So that was the final layer compared to our original one over here. And that was how I did the special effects for the lightsaber scene. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to show you guys a side-by-side comparison of how exactly it ended up coming out.
Look what has become of you, a rat in the desert. Look what I have risen above. Why did you come to this place? Not simply to hide. Oh, you have a purpose here. Perhaps you are protecting something? No, protecting someone. Tell me, is it the Chosen One? He is. He will avenge us.
Alright, so for this next section, and I kind of showed it a little bit in the last behind the scenes video, but I want to touch on this really quick about Qui Gonn and drawing his Force Ghost for every shot. This was significantly easier, did not take me a lot of time at all. It was the lighting effects later on that I will show with the campfire that actually did take a while. So I would drag each frame of Qui Gonn into Photoshop here, and I had to do two things before I exported every photo. I would use this dodge tool again to brighten up Qui Gonn a little bit. So I would just draw this all over him to make him look nice and bright. And if you can't really see the difference between those two pictures, that's what it looked like before, and that's what it looks like now. Because with the campfire scene, it got so much darker that I had to brighten him up before I added the blue special effects to him. So now I gotta exactly figure out how to, I forget what brush I used, but I used blue, pretty much the same blue coloring, and a decent sized brush with low opacity, and then colored all over Qui Gonn. You know what? His opacity was a little higher than that. And I colored all over Qui Gonn until he came out nice and glimmering blue. I used a different shade of blue too, I'm pretty sure. Let's see if I can crank that opacity up just a little more. Maybe that's what he looked like, kind of, but you see what I did. I used that dodge tool in Photoshop again, and then I used a brush, I don't exactly remember the size or color, to give Qui Gonn a blue glow. I did this for every single frame individually, and then I will go ahead and show you what the campfire scene looked like. Alright guys, so the last bit of this tutorial I want to show before I do the side-by-side comparison of the Qui Gonn scenes is how I did the campfire. Now, I did not use Photoshop for this, I actually used Adobe Premiere Elements for it. And so after I did every single frame of Qui Gonn's blue ghost. This is what they kind of looked like before I added the campfire effect. And what I did for this was I added a lighting effect in Adobe Premiere Elements to every single clip individually. So first I went over to my effects panel, went down to advanced adjustments, dragged over a lighting effect onto this frame. So now it gives me all these lighting effects over here. I used a spotlight to make the campfire, but I had to change this this angle so that it would be down near the campfire. All right, there we go. The light color, I changed it to somewhere in like the orange range to make it kind of glow like that a little bit. I upped the intensity a little bit. This is kind of how this worked. I don't exactly remember all the presets I used. Let's see, ambient light color was, actually the ambient light color was in the oranges. Yes, there we go. And then the regular light was white. So I had the ambient light as orange. There we go. That's kind of looking more what it looked like. And then I played around with the radiuses a little bit. I think the minor radius was expanded and the intensity was brought down. Yeah, this is kind of what the scene ended up looking like. But I basically just used the lighting effects in Photoshop to make the campfire scenes like this. And then to make it flicker, here's actually what I did. I'm going to copy this one frame just so that it looks like, just so that we have some stop motion going on here with each and every single clip. Actually, just kidding. I want to get rid of all of those because I messed up. But with each frame, I would knock down the intensity just a hair. So then let's copy these two. And if you play that like that, we have one intensity, lower intensity, high, low. So it kind of, that's how I made it flicker. And obviously it came out a lot better in the film. I'm just doing this really rough to show you guys how I did it. But that was how I did the campfire scene with Qui Gonn. And then that's why he came out looking like that kind of blue instead of the blue that he actually ended up looking like. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the side-by-side comparison of the Qui Gonn scene.
How did it come to this? Obi-Wan, my old friend. Master Qui Gonn. It seems you are the master now. I failed at training Anakin, the chosen one. What makes me think I can train his son? Let your past mistakes guide you, my old Padawan. You will succeed in areas where you previously failed. If I was even half the master you were, we wouldn't be in this mess. You could say the same if I hadn't insisted Anakin be trained. We all made mistakes. Now we must learn from them. I really thought he was the chosen one. So did I. Do you think his son could be? I'm not in a position to make any judgments like that anymore. Master Yoda told me you'd come to me like this. How did you do it? How are you? I will teach you.
Alright guys, so that's just going to about wrap up this behind the scenes tutorial / showcase of how I did all these special effects. Let me know down in the comments below if you have any other questions. I am honestly not sure what the best stop motion apps are there, or like even editing apps. I'm assuming that something like these lightsabers, especially with the lightsaber brushes, this is something that can be done in pretty much any drawing application. You can just mess with the opacity of brushes. That's pretty much a standard tool. That's not something exclusive for Photoshop. Cropping out backgrounds, that might be a little bit more advanced, and the campfire lighting that I used in Premiere Elements might be a little more advanced. If you are into stop motion at all, and you actually can afford programs that cost like $100, I very much recommend Adobe Premiere Elements and Adobe Photoshop Elements. I got them on sale as a 2-for-1 bundle for $100 a couple years ago, but I think the regular was like $150. So if you're really in the market for decent editing software and you want to make your stop motions and your films in general look a lot better, I recommend these two programs quite a bit, the Adobe Photoshop Elements and Adobe Premiere Elements. Just do a quick Google search for them. But I'm sure there's a ton of other free programs out there. I've seen you guys use them in some of your own stop motions as well. But that's going to just about do it. I just wanted to show you guys how I did everything because everyone was asking about it. Everyone was complimenting my special effects, which again, thank you guys so much for the support on the Kenobi animation and the first behind the scenes video. That video is really taken off, so I'm very thankful for your support on that. And I'm glad I was able to do this little tutorial to show you exactly how I did everything else in here. So thank you guys very much for watching. Leave a big thumbs up if you enjoyed. Leave me a comment down below. And be sure to go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks guys very much for watching. This has been Brian from Watermelon Studios. Peace out, guys.